You are seeing live views of Launch Pad 6, Site 31 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, where Soyuz 2.1A booster rocket stands ready to launch the unpiloted Progress 86 cargo spacecraft, carrying 2.7 tons of food, fuel, and supplies for the Expedition 70 crew currently aboard the International Space Station. Good morning from Mission Control Houston and the International Space Station Flight Control Room, where we are bringing you live coverage of the launch of the Progress 86 spacecraft. We are just under 25 minutes away from launch, currently scheduled for 3:25 and 11 seconds a.m. Central Time, 4:25 and 11 seconds a.m. Eastern, which is 2:25 and 11 seconds p.m. in Baikonur. This launch will begin an 8-minute and 45-second journey to place Progress in its preliminary orbit. The Soyuz booster with the Progress spacecraft rolled out to the pad in Baikonur on Tuesday, November 28th in preparation for today's launch. The three-stage Soyuz 2.1A booster was fully fueled several hours ago, and the team in Baikonur are now in the final checks of the Soyuz systems as we close in on today's launch window. Launch through spacecraft separation is controlled at the blockhouse in Baikonur, and at the time of spacecraft separation, flight control will be transferred to the team at the Russian Mission Control Center in Koryov, just outside of Moscow. Here in the room, the Orbit 1 International Space Station Flight Control Team are currently on console and being led by Flight Director Heidi Brewer. This team is monitoring the systems on station, which will be the final destination for the unpiloted Progress cargo spacecraft. Following launch, Progress will be placed into a 2-day, 34-orbit journey to the space station, leading to an automatic docking to the Poisk module on Sunday, December 3rd at 5:14 a.m. Central, 6:14 a.m. Eastern. To make way for the Progress 86 vehicle, the Progress 84 spacecraft that docked to the space station's Poisk module earlier this year departed the station on Wednesday, November 29th, burning up harmlessly in the Earth's atmosphere over the South Pacific Ocean. The Progress 86 spacecraft is carrying a total of 2.7 tons of cargo to the Expedition 70 crew currently aboard the space station, and once docked, it'll remain at the orbiting laboratory for approximately 6 months. The breakdown of cargo being delivered includes 1,135 pounds of propellant, 926 pounds of water, 88 pounds of nitrogen, and 3,423 pounds of spare parts and other supplies. The 7-member multinational crew comprising Expedition 70 currently aboard the International Space Station includes NASA astronauts Jasmine Mogbelli and Laurel O'Hara, European Space Agency astronaut Andreas Mogensen, Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Satoshi Furukawa, and Roscosmos cosmonauts Konstantin Borisov, Oleg Kononenko, and Nikolai Chub. The crew woke up just a couple of hours ago and are now working through various tasks for their day. Kononenko and Chub will be monitoring docking of Progress on Sunday, December 3rd from the Toru, which is the telerobotically operated rendezvous unit. The teams recently pulled go to proceed with the Progress 86 launch today, and back on the launch pad, the countdown is proceeding inside the 21-minute mark. About 15 minutes ago, we saw the gantry arms that were surrounding the spacecraft on the launch pad lower. And then once we get into the final minutes of countdown, we'll see several different milestones, starting at about T-minus 7 minutes when a physical launch key will be inserted at the launch bunker by the launch conductor to transition the launch sequence into automatic mode. And then around 5.5 minutes before launch, the launch conductor in Baikonur will report if the range is clear and the Soyuz rocket is ready to begin its journey. Around 4 minutes before launch, the strip chart recorders in the Launch Control Center that record telemetry will be up and running. Fuel lines of the rocket engines will be purged with nitrogen to fireproof them, and onboard systems will switch to autonomous control, followed by booster tanks being pressurized for flight to optimize the flow of fuel. Once we're inside the T-minus 3.5 minute mark, the key to the drainage position at the launch site will be turned to the proper position. This will enable the valves through which evaporated gaseous oxygen escapes from the fuel tanks into the atmosphere are closed and fuel is draining back into the tanks to maintain proper weight distribution of the vehicle. Once we're inside T-minus 3 minutes, the fuel and oxidizer tanks on the first stage will be pressurized to optimize fuel flow and provide additional structural rigidity to the launch vehicle. And then once we're in the final couple of minutes of the countdown, the ground propellant feed to the first stage of the Soyuz booster will be terminated. At T-minus 1 minute, the Soyuz booster will go on internal power, and then we will see retraction of the first umbilical at the T-minus 35-second mark. The umbilicals are the towers that are buttressed up against the upper stage of the rocket, and then the second umbilical will retract at around T-minus 12 seconds to initiate the engine start sequence. And then we will have liftoff at 3:25 and 11 seconds a.m. Central Time to begin the 2-day 34 orbit journey for the Progress 86 vehicle. We are now under 18 minutes away from the Progress 86 launch today. The spacecraft will go through several milestones following a liftoff at 3:25 and 11 seconds a.m. Central Time. About 1 minute and 57 seconds after launch, we will see first stage shutdown and separation. And then about a minute later, we will see the launch shroud jettison. And then at about 4 minutes and 37 seconds after launch, we'll see second stage shutdown followed by second stage separation. And then another 10 seconds later, we'll see the third stage skirt jettison. At 8 minutes and 45 seconds after launch, we will see third stage shutdown and orbital insertion, followed by spacecraft separation, which will place Progress in its preliminary orbit on its way to the International Space Station. Moments after orbital insertion and spacecraft separation, the solar arrays and navigational antennas will be deployed, and we will be standing by for a test of the external television camera on Progress, and this is basically a black and white crosshair camera that will be used during docking. We are just under 14 and a half minutes away from the Progress 86 launch. For those of you who are just joining us, you are seeing live views of Launch Pad 6, Site 31 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, where Soyuz 2.1A booster rocket stands ready to launch the unpiloted Progress 86 spacecraft, carrying 2.7 tons of food, fuel, and supplies for the Expedition 70 crew currently aboard the International Space Station. We are now just under 12 minutes away from launch of the Progress 86 spacecraft. In about 5 minutes, we will begin to see some of the final minutes of countdown with various milestones. At the T-7 minute mark, we will see or hear the physical launch key being inserted at the launch bunker by the launch conductor to transition the launch sequence into automatic mode. Shortly thereafter, the launch conductor in Baikonur will report if the range is clear and the Soyuz rocket is ready to begin its journey. We are now just under 10 minutes away from the Progress 86 launch this morning. You are currently seeing a live view of the Progress spacecraft atop a Soyuz 2.1A booster at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The Progress 86 spacecraft will be launching today to carry a total of 2.7 tons of cargo to the Expedition 70 crew currently aboard the International Space Station, and once docked, it'll remain at the orbiting laboratory for approximately 6 months. The Progress 86 vehicle will be facing a 2-day 34-orbit chase to the International Space Station that will lead to an automatic docking to the Poisk module on Sunday, December 3rd at 5:14 a.m. Central, 6:14 a.m. Eastern. We are now just under 8 minutes away from the Progress 86 launch today. In about a minute, the physical launch key will be inserted at the launch bunker by the launch conductor to transition launch sequence into automatic mode. Shortly thereafter, the launch conductor and Baikonur will report if the range is clear and the Soyuz rocket is ready to begin its journey. About a minute after that, the strip chart recorders in Launch Control Center that record telemetry will be up and running. The fuel lines of the rocket engines will be purged with nitrogen to fireproof them, and onboard switch systems will switch to autonomous control, followed by booster tanks being pressurized for flight to optimize the flow of fuel. And we just heard confirmation that the physical launch key was inserted at the launch bunker by the launch conductor to transition the launch sequence into automatic mode. In a few seconds, the launch conductor should report if the range is clear and the Soyuz rocket can begin its journey. We are now under 5 minutes away from the Progress 86 launch today. In a few moments, the strip chart recorders in the Launch Control Center that record telemetry will be up and running, and the fuel lines of the rocket engines will be purged with nitrogen to fireproof them by removing vapors of fuel and oxidizer. The onboard systems will also switch to autonomous control, followed by the booster tanks being pressurized for flight to optimize the flow of fuel. Once we're inside the T-minus 3.5-minute mark, the key to the drainage position at the launch site will be turned into the proper position. This basically enables the valves through which evaporated or gaseous oxygen escapes from the fuel tanks into the atmosphere to be closed and fuel to drain back into the tanks to maintain proper weight distribution of the vehicle. The valves also provide liquid oxygen for replenishment that has been lost through boil off of liquid oxygen that is visible on the first stage. Once we're inside the 3-minute mark, the fuel and oxidizer tanks on the first stage will be pressurized to optimize fuel flow and to provide additional structural rigidity to the launch vehicle. And then once we're in the final minutes of the countdown at T-minus 1.5 minutes, the crown propellant feed of the first stage of the Soyuz booster will be terminated, and then the Soyuz booster will go on internal power at T-minus 1 minute. We will see retraction of the first umbilical around T-minus 35 seconds, and then the second umbilical will retract at T-minus 12 seconds, and this will initiate the engine start sequence, and then we will have liftoff of the Progress 86 vehicle at 3:25 and 11 seconds a.m. Central Time, 4:25 and 11 seconds a.m. Eastern Time this morning. You're now about 2 minutes and 40 seconds away from launch of the Progress 86 vehicle. The key to the drainage position at the launch site has been turned to the proper position, and fuel and oxidizer tanks on the first stage are being pressurized to optimize fuel flow and provide additional structural rigidity to the launch vehicle. We are now 2 minutes away from the launch of Progress 86. Momentarily, the ground propellant feed to the first stage of the Soyuz booster will be terminated, and then in about 30 seconds, the Soyuz booster will go on to internal power. We are now 1 minute away from launch of the Progress 86 spacecraft atop a Soyuz 2.1A booster. The booster is now on internal power. In just about 10 seconds, we will see retraction of the first umbilical, and these are the towers that are buttressed up against the upper stage of the rocket. And there we have retraction of the first umbilical. The second umbilical will retract in about 13 seconds, and this will initiate engine start sequence. We are 15 seconds away from launch. Second umbilical has retracted, and the engine sequence has started. Engines are coming up to full throttle. And liftoff of the 86 Progress resupply vehicle for its 34-orbit journey to the International Space Station. Engines on the first stage are operating as expected. Booster systems are also operating as expected. The structural parameters of the vehicle are normal. The vehicle continues to be stable. The vehicle continues to be stable, and we are about a minute away from first stage shutdown and separation. Roll, pitch, and yaw of the vehicle are normal. We are a minute and 20 seconds into the flight, and everything is proceeding as expected. Engines of the first stage continue to operate as expected. We are standing by for first stage shutdown and separation. We have confirmation of first stage shutdown and separation. The vehicle is currently traveling 4,500 miles per hour and 29 miles in altitude, 29 miles downrange from the Cosmodrome. The vehicle continues to be stable and all structural parameters are normal. We are about 20 seconds away from launch shroud jettison. The engines in the second stage are operating as expected. We have confirmation that the launch shroud successfully jettisoned. The second stage engine continues to operate as expected. In about 1 minute, we will see second stage shutdown, followed shortly thereafter by second stage separation and third stage skirt jettison. We are now 4 minutes into today's flight and everything continues to proceed as expected. We have confirmation of second stage shutdown. The vehicle continues to be stable and is proceeding as expected. We have confirmation of second stage separation. We will see third stage skirt jettison shortly. We are 5 minutes and 45 seconds into today's flight, and everything continues to proceed as expected, and the third stage engine is operating as expected. In just under 3 minutes, we will see third stage shutdown and orbital insertion, followed shortly thereafter by spacecraft separation. The vehicle continues to perform as expected. It is traveling approximately 11,000 miles per hour at an altitude of 118 miles and is 527 miles downrange from the Cosmodrome. We are about 2 minutes away from third stage shutdown and orbital insertion, everything continuing to proceed as planned. We are about 7 minutes and 45 seconds into today's flight, and the structural parameters on the vehicle are normal and the vehicle is stable. We are just under a minute away from third stage shutdown and orbital insertion, followed by spacecraft separation. At the time of separation, flight control will be transferred to the team at the Russian Mission Control Center outside of Moscow. We have confirmation of third stage shutdown and orbital insertion. And we have confirmation of spacecraft separation. Progress is now in its preliminary orbit, traveling at approximately 17,500 miles per hour at a preliminary altitude of 125 statute miles. The solar arrays and navigation antennas are now deployed, and we're standing by for a test of the external television camera. And we are now seeing the black and white crosshair camera from the Progress 86 vehicle. This will be used during docking operations on Sunday. And the vehicle has now begun its 2-day 34 orbit rendezvous. Liftoff of the Soyuz rocket carrying the Progress 86 spacecraft occurred on time at 3:25 and 11 seconds a.m. Central, 4:25 and 11 seconds a.m. Eastern, which was 2:25 and 11 seconds p.m. in Baikonur from Launch Pad 6, Site 31 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. All 3 stages operated as expected during an 8-minute 45-second ride to place Progress in its preliminary orbit where it is now. The Progress spacecraft will now begin a 2-day 34 orbit chase to arrive at the International Space Station's Poisk module with docking scheduled for Sunday, December 3rd at 5:14 a.m. Central, 6:14 a.m. Eastern. You can join us for live coverage of Progress's automated rendezvous and docking to the International Space Station's Poisk module starting at 4:30 a.m. Central, 5:30 a.m. Eastern on Sunday, December 3rd. Until then, this is Mission Control Houston.